some of these ideas are new. And if you feel like you haven't been receiving consistently and freely and abundantly, it's most likely because you're not giving consistently and freely and abundantly. And so again, and to change your life, to change your results, it requires changing your beliefs and changing your actions. And many times that means taking a step before you're ready. So today we're going to lean into the law of receiving. And so the key concepts we're going to jump into and focus on as far as receiving is how it's so important to give first. So the law of receiving is in line with the law of circulation. And so we give to then receive, right? So giving activates the law of receiving. So for the law of receiving, the same measure in which you give, you shall receive. So if you give freely and abundantly, you're going to receive freely and abundantly. So we are always, whatever we give into life, we will receive, right? And so it's so important to give first. The law says it is more blessed to give than it is receive. And as you freely give, you freely receive. So if we give with strings attached, that's not giving. That's being manipulative, right? And so we want to give in a way that feels good to us and is good for all those involved. And when we give, we want to give expecting that we're going to receive, but we don't want to expect to receive in a certain way. Like, okay, I'm giving this person $10, so I expect to receive 100 and it's going to come in this way. Like, we don't want to constrict the law. We really want to be open. And so a lot of people feel like, okay, once I receive X amount of money, then I will give a certain amount. And that is just going to constrict and hold up the process of receiving. So if someone will not give when they're earning $50,000 a year, right? If they don't want to give 10% of 50,000, they're not going to give 10% of 100,000 or of $1 million. And so it's really coming from the place of giving with the energy that we live in an abundant universe. And as we give, we will receive. And so there is a leap of faith required here. And there is a requirement of getting out of your comfort zone. And so if 10% feels like too much of a stretch, then we want to say, okay, can I give 5% consistently or even 2.5% consistently? And then once we give that 2.5% or 5% consistently, increase it until we get to 10%. It's important to give and give systematically. So what does that mean? So that means set up that each month you have a direct deposit to either a place of worship or a charity that you believe in, or some sort of place, especially if your income is consistent and you know, okay, every month I'm going to earn this amount of money, or every week or every other week I'm going to earn this amount of money, and then just have an automatic donation each week, twice a month, every month, however you want to do that. And then if you are an entrepreneur and you receive money sporadically, then you may want to set it up a different way. But it's important to evaluate how much you're receiving and then to give a percentage of that to something that is good. So that means something that's going to bring good to others and something that's going to feel good that you're investing in and donating in. Anytime we feel hesitant to give, look at how when you want fire, you have to get logs and something like either a match, you have to give to get fire, right? So you don't just stare at a wooden stove or a place within the forest if you're camping and say, okay, I want a fire, and then I'll give you some logs. Like you have to give before you can receive. And so that's a perfect example of the law of receiving. And it's so important to form that belief that giving activates receiving. And again, some of these ideas are new. And if you feel like you haven't been receiving consistently and freely and abundantly, it's most likely because you're not giving consistently and freely and abundantly. And so again, and to change your life, to change your results, it requires changing your beliefs and changing your actions. And many times that means taking a step before you're ready. And if you're feeling fear around the idea of giving 10% regularly, and you're like, well, then I won't be able to make the mortgage, or this is where it's important to acknowledge that fear is essentially at the border of what you've known before. So, in order to step into a new level of receiving, giving 2.5, 5%, 10%, whatever is a little bit is a stretch for you, but is not going to alarm you, whatever that amount is, I encourage you to start doing that now. So, another part of this, we want to give first, but we also want to give wisely. And so what does it mean to give where it will do the most good? So when you see someone making an effort to help himself or herself, that's the time to assist the person, right? We don't want someone who's going to misuse your gift or who will abuse your gift, right? So there's a period of time where people, and this can get tricky, and ultimately you have to make the decision on your own. Like I love to give to homeless people, right? And I really lean into giving more like a sandwich or a drink rather than money to a homeless person, right? Because I'm hoping that that caring act of someone going out of their way to show that I feel like that person's important will help spark something new in them. Um, but as far as we don't want to contribute to someone's downward spiral. So if someone is in a downward spiral of destruction and they're making bad choices and they're not helping themselves, and you give them money, that can become a codependent relationship where you're actually contributing to their downward spiral and you're not letting them have the dignity to hit their rock bottom and to make different decisions in their life. And so this is why it's really important to give where someone is trying to do better in their life, right? Like maybe they are trying to build a new business and they're taking all those actions, but you see that they're making effort and they need some support, right? Like they need some additional resources and you feel called to help them out. And so if you are able to help them out, then that could actually better their cause because they're already setting a momentum in the right direction and they're already in that upper spiral. Like, for example, if the person who's hitting rock bottom does wake up and they're like, okay, I'm going to go get a job, but I need a car, right? And they've gotten the job, they're doing the interview. Maybe you could set something up for them at that point where it's holding them accountable, but you're still able to give to their situation and help them set up for success. So We want to give systematically. And the reason here is because we receive as we give. And so one option here is tithing. And tithing is so potent because you touch the law of giving and receiving in a definite, orderly, and systematic way of giving. And nature is definite, orderly, and systematic, right? When you plant a seed and you water it and you put it in a place with sunlight, you know most likely that seed is going to sprout and it's going to grow. That's because there's an order within nature. So the more that we can give as the law of nature shows itself, which is definite, orderly, and systematic, then we are also going to receive in that definite, orderly, and systematic way. So if you're like, okay, I'm going to give 10% of my income regardless of how much I make, then the universe hears that and you're giving at making 30,000 and then you get a raise and now you're making 50,000. So now you're giving 10% of 50,000 and you're showing this. And so the universe is like, all right, like let's go ahead and give this person more because then they're going to give more to this great cause. And so the more you give consistently and as you receive, the universe knows that you're going to give that 10% no matter how much you receive. And so the universe is going to want to give to you abundantly as well. So that's why it's also important that we do expect to receive. And so what does that mean? So we continually draw into life what we give and expect. And so once we give, our next step is to prepare to receive the results of our giving. And so this doesn't mean that, again, I'll use the example that I used earlier, that if we give $10, we're like, well, I'm going to receive that in tenfold and I want to receive it by this date. And it's really important that we expect to receive, but are open to how and what we receive and when. And so it's just like a farmer when they plant their crops and they give the soil seeds and they fertilize it and make sure that, you know, the proper equipment is being used and the conditions are right as far as the rain and the sun and everything, that the farmer expects to receive crops to harvest. And so we could ask, you know, can I expect to receive too much? And true desire represents the urge of life. So a lot of times we're taught to give, but not to expect to receive. But that is a paradigm that is not serving us. So life wants us to receive abundantly, to have an enriching experience in life. Because the more we receive, the more we can give, right? We don't want to wait till we receive a certain amount to give, but we're already saying the amount I receive, I'm going to give 10% of the amount I receive, right? We're committing to that. And then as we receive, we're already expecting to give, right? We've already committed to giving. When we feel true desire to have an experience, when we want to go on a vacation, when we want that dream house, when we want that vacation home, that is life seeking fuller expression through us. It's not greed, unless we just want to hoard it, right? Especially if we want to give experience to our children, or we want to give joy to ourselves. The idea that this is something bad, that's an old paradigm that is not from the power breathing us, whether we choose to call that God or life or universe, source, spirit. Life wants us to experience itself in the fullest version. And so we really want to expect that we will receive abundantly. And we can receive that with open arms. We can receive that gratefully, and that we deserve and are worthy to receive abundantly and freely. And if any thoughts right now are coming up, well, yeah, you don't want to receive too much though, because, people who have a lot of riches are bad or they're mean. Those are the paradigms that we want to be aware of, the thoughts that we want to be aware of, the limiting thoughts we want to be aware of. And we want to start challenging those and replacing those with, that's actually not true. When we look at the results of our lives, they are a perfect outer reflection of our inner paradigms. And so if we look at our bank account, our home, our neighborhood, our relationship with anybody, whether it's our spouse, our partner, our children, our parents, our siblings, our family, our friends, if we look at our health, anything that we have longing and discontent, anything that we'd like to improve, the results that we have are based on the paradigms that we currently have. But we can always notice them, notice our thoughts, and we can replace them with more empowering thoughts. And this is true around receiving as well. So when we give, we want to give with expectation that we will receive. We will ultimately receive. So as we give, we will also receive. And receiving, there's nothing wrong with receiving. Life wants us to receive. And stereotypically, a lot of women are really good givers and have a lot of opportunity to improve in being receivers. And so first we want to give. We want to give, especially in areas that we're experiencing some sort of lack, right? So if we're feeling like we're not appreciated, we're like, gosh, I do so much and I'm not appreciated. Gosh, why can't people appreciate me? We want to start appreciating others. Anytime someone holds the door, thank you so much, right? Anytime someone serves us at the restaurant, thank you so much for this wonderful service and giving a great tip. Thank you so much to my children who help me out or give me a flower, right? Thank you so much. Or even going to someone, acknowledging what you appreciate in them, sending a text a day to a friend. I really appreciate that you listen to me. I really appreciate that you're there for me. I really appreciate that you post inspirational stuff on your Instagram every day, whatever it is. Just noticing and appreciating, because the more we appreciate others, the more we will become appreciated. If we're feeling a lack of time, I just don't have any time. I start volunteering your time. Spend extra time with your kids, or extra time with your spouse, or extra time with your friends. Go and have dinner out with a friend tonight, right? Carve out time. And so as we give others time, we will receive more time for ourselves. Because as we spend more time with our children, as we spend more time with our friends, we're giving that time to ourselves as well. And then expecting is we want to notice, pay attention, and give gratitude for the ways in which the universe delivers to you the very things you are giving. And so the other day, I held the door for a woman and I gave her a compliment and she gave me a compliment right back. And I said, thank you very much. Right. And I acknowledged it and I received it. I didn't say, oh, you mean these old things? Oh, and a lot of times, especially as women, but I'm sure there's men out there too, especially as women, when someone says, oh, I love your hair. Oh, really? I thought it looked horrible today. Oh, I love your earrings. Oh, really? I've had these things forever, And we don't want to, that's pushing away. We want to become really good receivers, because as we are are welcoming and open to receiving, this is where that expectation is, right? We want to expect that we receive. We want to prepare ourselves to receive. And that means when we receive, to be grateful for it. Thank you so much that I got a wonderful parking spot, right? Thank you so much that I found this parking spot right by the entrance and it's raining. This is awesome. We want to acknowledge it. We want to be grateful for it. And it's also really nice to be able to receive it. Take a moment, even when someone gives you a compliment. Oh, I love your shirt. Let it go from the head right down into your heart and really feel that gratitude of receiving, because that strengthens the muscles of being able to receive. And so sometimes the universe will test us, and the receiving will come through a compliment. And if we dismiss that compliment, why is the universe going to continue to give you things if you're not even going to acknowledge and be grateful? And we don't have to do this perfectly, especially if this is something new, but we want to notice what we're noticing. And if we notice dismissing a compliment, the next time, do a little bit better. And be sure to watch this video to learn more tools and receive inspiration and motivation to go for your dreams. You can do it. I believe in you.